The rain hammered the Brooklyn streets like fists on a coffin lid, and I was soaked to the bone by the time I shoved open the door to Finn's brownstone. "Levi, kid, don't you dare let that much chew up my Hemingway." His voice echoed in my head, gravelly and warm. The last words he'd growled at me 2 nights ago over whiskey and regrets. But now, the apartment was a tomb, silent except for the frantic scrabble of paws on the floorboards as Rusty launched himself at me, whining like he knew the world had cracked open. I buried my face in his golden fur, the smell of wet dog and old books hitting me like a gut punch. Finn was gone. Just like that. A heart attack in his sleep, the coroner said, no warning, no goodbye. The man who'd pulled me from the gutter of my own failures, who'd taught me to write with blood instead of ink, was reduced to a cold slab in some Queens morgue. And here I was, 28 and adrift, holding the leash to his life because his blood family? They hadn't called. Not once. Finn O'Malley had been my North Star since I stumbled into his writing workshop at the New School 5 years back. A scrawny kid from Ohio with a backpack full of half-baked poems and a heart full of holes. He was pushing 50 then, all salt and pepper stubble and eyes like storm clouds over the Hudson. The kind of prof who chain-smoked camels and tore your work apart not to break you, but to rebuild you stronger. "Words aren't decorations, Levi," he'd say, leaning over my shoulder in that cramped office reeking of coffee and despair. "They're weapons. Swinging like you umienić." Our bond started there, in the haze of red ink and late-night revisions. I'd linger after class, nursing a beer at the dive bar down the block, and he'd show up uninvited, sliding onto the stool next to me with a smirk. "You're too pretty to be this miserable, kid." We'd talk for hours, about the ache of unrequited loves, the grind of New York chewing up dreamers, the quiet terror of being queer in a world that still whispered freak behind your back. He never pushed, never named it, but there was a current between us, electric and unspoken, like the hum of the F train underfoot. Rusty came into the picture a year in, a rescue mutt with one floppy ear and a penchant for stealing socks. Finn found him shivering in an alley off Bedford Avenue, ribs poking through like piano keys. "This one's got stories," Finn said, scooping him up without a second thought. From then on, it was the 3 of us. Finn pounding out his novel on that ancient underwood, me scribbling in the margins, Rusty sprawled at our feet like a furry referee. Those evenings in the brownstone, with the skyline glittering through the grimy windows and jazz crackling from the radio, felt like stolen time, sacred. I'd fallen for him hard, somewhere between the 3rd rewrite of my short story and the night he confessed, voice thick with bourbon, that his own family had washed their hands of him 20 years ago. Dad called me an abomination when he found the letters from that boy in college. Mom just cried and packed my bags. Haven't spoken since. His laugh was bitter, like biting into a rotten apple. I wanted to pull him close then, to map the hurt on his skin with my fingertips, but I didn't. Fear's a hell of a silencer, fear of ruining the one good thing in my life, fear that I was just the eager protege, not the man he saw in the dark. When the call came from the hospital, I was at my shitty temp job, filing invoices in Midtown. My phone buzzed, and the ER doc's voice was all clinical edges. "Mr. O'Malley's next of kin?" I lied without thinking, "That's me." Because who else was there? Not the ghosts in Ohio who'd disowned him. I handled the arrangements, the no-frills cremation, the scattering of ashes in Prospect Park under a sky the color of grief. Finn would have hated the fuss, but damn if I let him go alone. The first week blurred into a fog of paperwork and empty takeout boxes. I crashed on his couch, Rusty's head heavy on my lap, pretending the indent on the pillow beside me was still warm. That's when the knock came, sharp, entitled, like they owned the place. I cracked the door, and there they were. Finn's sister, Elaine, mid-40s with a perm that screamed suburban Midwest, flanked by her husband, a beefy guy in a polo that strained at the seams. Trailing behind was their teenage son, slouched against the railing, scrolling his phone like this was a chore. "Levi, right? The student." Elaine's smile was all teeth, no warmth. She thrust a manila envelope at me. "Legal docs, crisp and cold. We're here for Rusty's things. And the dog, of course. Family property." I blinked, rain still dripping from my jacket onto the welcome mat. "Family? You mean the same family that hasn't checked on him in 2 decades?" Her eyes narrowed, that Midwestern politeness cracking like thin ice. Finn made his choices. We tried reaching out after. Well, but he blocked us. Now he's gone and Rusty's ours by blood right. The will's clear or lack of one, anyway. There was no will. Finn, stubborn as a mule, had always said, "When I go, burn it all. Let the words fly free." But these vultures had swooped in anyway, armed with a lawyer's letter citing some archaic inheritance clause. Betrayal hit me like a freight train. Not just theirs, but Finn's silence. Had he planned for this? Or was I fooling myself, thinking I meant more than a passing fancy? They pushed past me while I stood frozen, Elaine cooing at Rusty like he was a prize ham at the county fair. "Come on, boy. Auntie Elaine's got a nice yard back in Dayton." Rusty cowered behind my legs, hackles up, a low growl rumbling in his chest. The husband, Bob, I think, started boxing up books, casual as you please, while the kids snapped pics of the place for Instagram or whatever hell kids scroll these days. "Get out." I finally choked, voice raw. "This isn't your home. It never was." Elaine whirled, clutching a stack of Finn's notebooks. His life's blood, scribbled with fragments of the novel he'd never finished. "You were just his little side project, Levi. Some lost boy he pitied. We're his blood. We have rights." The word pity landed like a slap. All those nights, the way his hand would brush mine over the typewriter keys, the quiet mornings when he'd hum Sinatra while frying eggs. Pity? My chest tightened, grief twisting into rage. I lunged for the notebooks, but Bob blocked me, his meaty hand on my shoulder. "Easy, son. Don't make this ugly." Ugly. As if they hadn't made it a graveyard already. Rusty barked then, sharp and fierce, lunging at Bob's ankles. Chaos erupted. Elaine shrieking, the kid dropping his phone, Bob stumbling back into a shelf that rained dusty paperbacks like confetti from hell. In the scramble, I spotted it. The loose floorboard under Finn's desk, the one he'd always said was, "For secrets only the rats know." Heart pounding, I dropped to my knees, prying it up with shaking fingers while they yelled. There, in the crawl space, was a metal lockbox, rusted at the edges but solid. No key, but desperation makes a hell of a crowbar. I wedged my pocket knife in, popping the latch with a groan that echoed my own. Inside, a stack of letters, yellowed and tied with twine, a thumb drive labeled for L, and an envelope, sealed with red wax, my name scrawled in Finn's looping script. "Stop! That's private." Elaine lunged, but I held it aloft, tearing it open right there on the floor. The words blurred through hot tears, but they seared into me all the same. "Levi, if you're reading this, I'm dust on the wind, and you're still fighting the good fight. You think I didn't see it? The way your eyes lit up when you nailed a line. The quiet hunger when we'd sit too close on that godforsaken couch. I loved you, kid. Not like a mentor, not like a pity case. Like a man loves the only light in his dark. The family? They can have the silver if they want it, but Rusty's yours. The words are yours. And this place, hell, the whole damn city if I could swing it. Check the drive. Finish the book. For us, yours always, Finn." The room spun. Love. Not unspoken. Not imagined. A goddamn declaration, hidden like contraband in the floorboards of his heart. Elaine snatched at the paper, but I clutched it to my chest, Rusty wedged between us like a shield. "Get out," I said again. But this time my voice didn't waver. It thundered. "He left it all to me. Every word, every paw print. You lost him years ago. Don't pretend now." Bob blustered about lawyers, contests, cops. But Elaine's face crumpled, the fight draining out like air from a punctured tire. She saw it then, in the raw slash of my grief, the echo of her brother's. He really loved you. It wasn't accusation. It was ache, the kind that bridges chasms. "Yeah," I whispered, folding the note like fragile glass. "More than you ever knew." They left in a drizzle of defeat, the door clicking shut behind them like the end of a bad scene. I sank against the wall, Rusty curling into my side, his warmth the only anchor in the storm. That night, I plugged in the drive. Hundreds of pages, Finn's unfinished novel, laced with our story. The Ohio boy who fled to the city, the grizzled writer who found redemption in stolen glances. It wasn't polished, but it was alive, pulsing with the rhythm of jazz and rain-slicked streets. Months later, the book hit shelves under my byline, with a dedication in bold, "For Finn, who taught me to howl at the moon." The royalties bought this brownstone outright, turned the basement into a workshop for queer kids chasing their own North Stars. Rusty got a yard out back, and on quiet evenings, I'd sit on the stoop with a whiskey, watching the skyline pulse like a heartbeat. Grief doesn't vanish. It settles, like silt in the Hudson, making the water clearer somehow. Finn's family wrote once, a halting letter from Dayton. Apologies, invitations, a photo of their boy reading the book with something like wonder in his eyes. I didn't reply, not yet. Healing's a solo hike sometimes. But I kept the note taped inside the cover of my favorite Hemingway, a talisman against the dark. New York chews you up, spits you out remade. Finn knew that. And in the end, he didn't leave me alone, he left me whole. Loved. Ready to swing my words like weapons. For him. For us. For every lost boy still searching the alleys for a light.